Why do you do what you do beyond making money? And if you don't have a good answer to that, you probably don't have much of a why for your business. And there is no amount of success, revenue, profitability, sellability of your business that will ever compensate for the way that you're feeling on the inside, because you don't have a why beyond making money. What I think is really entrepreneurship in a nutshell, which is through the lens of your strengths and weaknesses, passions and values, you see something in the world that no one else sees. And therefore, you know how to serve that need in a way that no one else knows how to serve that need.
Welcome to the Deep Specialization Podcast, the show where we blend focus, strategy, and client intimacy in order to scale and simplify our businesses and our lives. I'm your host, Corey Quinn. Let's jump into the show. Today, I'm joined by an expert who's known for helping marketers and founders connect their personal why with their company why. He's also the founder and CEO of a wildly successful agency called Disruptive Advertising, and he's here to talk about his new adventure, Disruptive University. His name is Jacob Baadsgaard. Welcome, Jake.
Hey, Corey. Let's do this.
Aboard. Let's go. I can't wait to have you on, hear about your journey, and I'm super curious about Disruptive University. So let's kind of kick things off with Disruptive Advertising. You grew it from a team of 2 in the basement to over 100 employees. You started, I think, 11 years ago.
Yep,
so,
2013. So
2013. Okay, so technically 12.
Pushing 12, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. What was happening in your life before you started an actual agency back in 2013?
Yeah, there were a couple of things going on.
Yeah.
I'm just a big believer in get good at something. It almost doesn't even matter what it is, like just get good at something. And the thing that I got really good at is after college, I worked at a company called Omniture that was later bought by Adobe. And I helped some of the largest companies in the world deploy web analytics and connect that to their back-end customer data. And then we would get all of it tracking, all of it reporting, build dashboards, and help them make smart marketing decisions with their data. And so the skill that I developed was that. It was data. I had an information systems degree, did not do marketing, had nowhere on my radar that I would be doing a marketing agency. But what I found was, hey, if these largest companies in the world are struggling to make good marketing decisions because they don't have good data, what are the small and medium-sized businesses doing out there? And that's when I started to see the opportunity that existed. But Corey, I actually thought my agency would be a specialized analytics, implementation, and insights company.
Sure, makes sense.
It was actually called Found ROI because I would help you find the ROI in your data. And 2 reasons why it didn't work. Number one is everyone kept asking what's Found Roy as if it was some weird version of Where's Waldo? Like, where's Roy? Find him. And then the other thing that came up with that is 9 times out of 10, they would say, we do not have the bandwidth or expertise to implement what you are recommending. Can you do that for us?
Interesting.
And as an entrepreneur, the answer was, sure, I'll figure it out. That was kind of like the road that led to marketing, from get good at a skill set, go take it like to market. And this was all free pro bono work I was doing on the side to be like, does this help the business I worked at in college succeed? And it did. Like, it worked really well for small and medium-sized businesses, especially lead generation business models. Sure. Because with e-commerce, you had a little more visibility without as much work from end to end. But B2B with long sales cycles, even B2C lead gen models that still had you got to talk to someone, close the deal. Very few of them knew which leads were leading to revenue. And so they were all chasing cost per lead as the focus. Sure. And that's still surprisingly very, very common today as well, even 12, 13 years later. But that's where I saw the opportunity. And that's what birthed Disruptive Advertising, was a strategic name change, and realizing that our competitive advantage was we can help you get good data to make great marketing decisions. And the area that we specialized in to begin with was not all things marketing. It was primarily paid search, because that was the easiest to set up tagging for, the easiest to get the tracking in place for. It was last click attribution. A lot of it was more simplistic, and that's where your highest intent buyers are as well. And so that was kind of like the niche that I went after. And I know you're big into this niching into
Mhm.
something very specific. Mine was not industry specific, but it was a very specific service area deployment,
Correct.
is how I started the agency.
It's almost like another way to characterize it potentially is that you became an expert in solving a specific problem.
Yes.
Must be paid search, or at least initially must be paid search. Must they be on Omniture? Like, did they have to have the
Nope.
software? No.
Nope.
Okay. So
Yeah.
they had a conversion problem of some sort or other.
Yeah. This was businesses that were typically spending between 20 to
Mm.
$100,000 a month that didn't know if it was actually driving the ROI they were hoping that it would, but often doubting that it did.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the first 3 years of the business, we actually developed a pretty cool tool at the time that we've since sunsetted, but we audited over 2,000 Google Ads accounts. With our methodology, we found that 76% of the ad budget was wasted. And
Yeah.
that didn't even mean that the other 24% was profitable. It just meant that it was at least producing something.
Out of curiosity, who is that business so your first client that you helped out? That was a company you worked at during college?
Yeah, their name was iTalk. It was tech support. I worked
Okay.
there in college.
Yeah.
20, 25 person company. Like, it worked really well. They, after
Yeah.
implementing what I did, they went from leads that they were closing at a pretty low rate, costing about $25 to $30 a lead, to leads they were closing at an incredible rate at $2 to $3.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
and so they scaled, they 10x'd.
That's awesome.
They went from 20, 25 employees to over 250 employees,
Yep.
raised capital. They went the whole
Mm.
9 yards.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, okay, I've got something here.
Right.
Let's do this.
So who is client number two? How did you grow from that point, right?
Yeah. So it was freelancing at first.
Hmm.
And so it was just people in my network. So people that I'd done business with over the years at Omniture, former employers, people in my personal network, got some referrals. But keep in mind, at this point, I was still full-time employed. I was the director of marketing at a public company. It was a company called Copart that does online auto auctions. They actually converted into a customer as well. I had such a great relationship with with the CMO there that I said, "Hey, I'm ready to start my agency," and he said, "Awesome, we'll be a client."
That's
And so
awesome.
that's what happened when you just do good work,
Yeah.
man. Like, the
Yeah.
opportunities are always there.
So if you look at that moment, maybe client number 2, 3, 4, all the way till today, you have over 100 employees at Disruptive Advertising. What were some of the milestones between now and then that really helped you to unlock your growth? Like, what were some of the big unlocks for you?
I think every entrepreneur has a different strength. Mine's always been more on the marketing and sales side. So
Yeah.
my ability to be the growth engine for the agency was harder for me to replace than getting people to do the fulfillment and execution on the contracts that I would sell. So my first step was build a team around myself that can do a good job fulfilling and executing on the accounts that I'm closing. And let me develop a good enough playbook for them to follow that they can do a good job and I can sell more and grow the agency that way.
Okay.
That was like the first big milestone, and that got us to a couple million a year in revenue, with me still being the primary sales.
Salesperson.
And then it wasn't until I developed a pretty consistent way to do audits, sales proposals, I actually tried to hire a couple of seasoned sales veterans that did not go very well. It actually worked the best when I just got a young, scrappy guy
Mm.
and said, "Hey, just kind of help me follow through on the details that I'm not good at. And over time, I'll just hand more off to you." And over time, just got the right guy that wanted to take more and more off my plate and started running with the sales, hired
Yeah.
a couple of people on the sales team, and had a system that was repeatable enough that they only needed to loop me in on the larger deals. Yeah.
So I think this is an interesting topic because a lot of agency founders who maybe are hitting the $1 to $2 million range, where it's
Yeah.
primarily the sales have been primarily relationship or founder led, at a point where they want to step away from the sales role because they want to focus on other aspects of the business or whatnot, and yet they struggle. I'm curious. It sounds like the first thing that you did was to go out and hire seasoned salespeople. So
Yeah.
what about that was not the right fit at the time?
There was a couple of challenges. The first one was what I needed to pay them for it to work for them.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it actually created what was not a really long leash, so to speak, meaning
Mhm.
you've got to be able to hit numbers in relatively short order because that's why I'm bringing you on. as a more
Right.
seasoned sales
Right.
person.
Right. Yes.
And what I realized is they leaned into their old bag of tricks of how they'd sell and how they'd move things forward, but it wasn't good at setting expectations. They didn't really know what was being fulfilled and how it was being fulfilled.
Mm.
And I'm
Mm.
like, if I'm going to have to train you up quite a bit anyway, this is feeling like this is just isn't going to work with what you need to make compensation wise. If I'm going to be pretty heavily involved in training you anyway, it just didn't create a good situation for them or me, actually. I don't think either party did
Mm.
it wrong. It just wasn't working.
Was it that they were experienced, but they weren't experienced in selling your type of product? Were they
Yeah.
experienced in selling software or whatnot? Or
Well, they
what was
actually
that?
did have experience in the marketing industry, you
Mm.
know. But I will tell you, Corey, the best sales professionals, and I say this more broadly because
Yeah.
I've loved every salesperson I've worked with at Disruptive,
Mm.
but it's easy to say yes to get a deal, and that is not sales.
It's order taking.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah.
Order
Well, and it
taking.
doesn't set anyone up for success.
Right.
And so that was the biggest thing I was running into is like you actually have to know what to look for, when to say no, know when you're a good
Yeah.
fit.
Right.
And when you know you're a good fit, like, yeah, you can close the deal. But
Yeah.
it was tricky. And so what worked best for me at that stage was someone that was inexpensive enough, but driven and hungry enough as a sales professional that they
Yeah.
were open to being taught, learning how I did it, adapt it to their own way. But I
Okay.
wasn't like teaching an old dog new tricks, so to speak.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
that worked well for me.
Based on that, what would be an ideal hiring criteria for, let's say, an agency founder who is looking to bring on their first salesperson, is interested in this concept of bringing on someone who is younger, maybe do they have no experience in sales at all, or should they have some level of sales? What are the qualities that would really make for a great candidate for this role, do you think?
I think that does depend on the nature of the founder
Mm.
because I was more sales oriented
Yeah.
by my nature. Some are more technical in nature that are agency
Mm.
founders. And so they're really involved in the technicalities of it, but not really good at
Mm.
the hustling and networking and reaching out and prospecting and doing those types of things. And so the first question I would ask is like, know thyself. Like, what are your strengths in the sales process? And I found someone that I said, I just need someone that's really driven, but that is
Mm.
really good at follow through and follow up because I'm kind of weak in that area of sales.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for me, that's what I was looking for. And the person that I hired, I wasn't even interested in hiring, but followed up with me for so long and so many times that I'm like, you're the guy. Let's do
Yeah.
this.
You can do the job. Clearly, you know
Yeah.
how to be successful.
Yep. So he did
Got
have a sales background, but
it.
was
Okay.
still young, didn't, not a lot of years of experience, but had been in
Mhm.
sales roles.
Okay.
But yeah, so not completely from zero, but still pretty green in their career.
Beautiful. And also, as you mentioned, had a hunger, wanted to, probably make some sales, hit some milestones and
Yeah.
whatnot. Yeah.
And I'll just tell you this, like when I feel like I'm the one slowing them down, that's when I love working with them.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Like when I'm the one slowing it down and versus like, hey, come on, like do something, you know?
Mm. Yeah. So what is the fast forward to today? What does the sales team look like?
Yeah, it's still not that large, Corey. We've
Mhm.
got
Yeah.
4 account executives, two SDR, BDR type roles, and
Mhm.
then recently bringing on a new VP of sales.
Nice.
And so yeah, not a really large sales team. We've leaned
Yeah.
really heavily on our inbound channels and doing
Mhm.
marketing that positions us as the authority in the space. We
Yeah.
have, I believe we're, if not one of the top rated agencies by reviews in the country.
Mhm.
And so most places that you'll go to that say top rated agencies, you'll just find us.
Yeah.
And so we've got a lot of inbound leads coming in. We've actually never really done outbound before
Yeah.
with any sort of consistency, actually, before I became acquainted with you and
Yeah.
have been looking to diversify and expand our sales channels outside of inbound.
Yeah. When it comes to inbound, what is looking back now? What were a few things that really drove a lot of the impact when as it relates to the sort of the quality and quantity of inbounds you guys are getting?
Yeah. Quality for us is I want businesses that have an existing digital marketing budget that they're concerned they're not getting the value that they need from it. We are not a get you started with digital marketing agency. And so if you've done almost none to very little, we'll actually refer you to partners. If you're not spending at least $20, $40, $50,000 a month already in your digital ads, like we're just not going to be able to come and have it be a win for us and a win for the client. And so that's what we're looking for. And that's what helps us qualify pretty quickly is based on company size and ad budget is when we know we're going to be a fit. If they're too small, it's not a great fit. And frankly, if they're too big, it's actually not that great of a fit for us either. We've kind of got our sweet spot.
And what about lead gen versus e-com? Do you kind of help across the spectrum?
Because yes. And that's one of the things we were very specialized in the service that we provided for so long that it didn't really matter what industry you were in. If you met our criteria, we knew we could drive value.
Right.
What changed is we've expanded our service offering over time, and that's actually dramatically increased the complexity of my agency model. For 7 years, our clients would say, can you just do our SEO as well? Can you just do our email? Can you just do, because we like working with you guys. Can you just do these parts for us as well? And I'd like to say we've been pretty strategic in when we've decided to include those. And for example, we opened up SEO as a service offering, and within a year, it was already doing over 3 million in annual revenue just within our current client base. But we waited like 7 years before doing that. What I didn't anticipate was the complexity that added to the relationship with our clients. We didn't have an account management team. They were still typically working directly with the people on their accounts. It increased complexity for the sales team. It increased complexity across the board. Billing, account management, fulfillment, project management, sales. And so that's where, so we grew to about 25 million in annual agency fee revenue. And then realized it's not going to scale. We actually have to develop playbooks that are as repeatable within specific industries now if we're going to scale at this point. And so we were specialized by service area, which is what helped us grow very quickly up front. Then we broadened. It was more complex than we realized, like an order of magnitude more complicated than we realized.
How did that complication show up? Like, how did that materialize? Like, what was happening in the business that caused you to say, yeah, this SEO and all these different service lines that we've added just has created more complication? Like, what was the evidence of that?
I mean, you name it. Marketing. It now dilutes what do you market?
Yeah.
Your sales team needs to be trained on a lot more things, which creates more room for error. And they're way stronger in some areas than others. Fulfillment, like I mentioned, we didn't have a dedicated account management team. And now when you've got a variety of services, you need that. Someone that's quarterbacking multiple products. In order to afford account management, you need enough products to justify having an account manager on it as well. And so anyway, it was just, there was a lot of pieces like that we learned on the fly. And Corey, it was in this transition that we actually went from 650 accounts to about 200. And our average monthly revenue from our clients compensated. So we stayed about flat in revenue, but dropped to about a third of the amount of clients strategically. To say, hey, these are the kind of clients we want to work with now. This is where we add the most value. And then our solution has been more to develop playbooks for specific industries that we want to play in.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah. And that's actually why you and I connected was, hey, would love someone with some background in doing this to help us accelerate the learning curve.
Hey, it's Corey. I wanted to take a quick break from the show to say that if you're an agency owner looking for a strategic and reliable white label partner, you should check out E2M. They offer website design, WordPress development, e-commerce solutions, SEO, PPC, and content writing. And they are trusted by over 300 agencies. You can check out E2M's transparent and flexible pricing model at e2msolutions.com/the Deep Specialization Podcast. For limited time, E2M is offering a special 20% discount for the Deep Specialization Podcast listeners on your first month. Go check them out. Now back to the show. Beautiful. So is account management still part of the playbook? So having an
Yeah.
account manager, that's the primary point of contact for the client.
Yes.
Okay. And what type of background or skill level are you finding that a great account manager needs to have? Like if you were going to bring one into the team, be able to interface, be that point of contact for the clients that you serve. I mean, they're spending 20 to 50K a month, potentially a lot more,
Yeah.
in maybe ad spend or service fees across these different service areas. What does a great account manager look like for you?
I like to think of our account managers as fractional performance marketing directors.
Mm,
That's how I like to think about them, because
yeah,
they've got to be thinking about the business,
yeah,
not
so true.
just about one marketing channel, right?
Yeah.
And so we really teach them how to get clear on what the vision of the business is, what the strategy of the business is, and then how to translate that into marketing goals and
Mhm.
execution.
Yep.
There's so many marketers that just do good marketing and hit in-platform metrics and high five, but it doesn't drive business results.
Right.
And so we really try to focus more on like, hey, we want you to be thinking more like a marketing director,
Mhm.
not a specialist in a specific area.
Right. Right.
And so that's more of what we're looking for.
Does that person have to have a diverse set of marketing sort of platform experience, or can they come from an SEO background that you could train them on the other channels, or what's ideal? You may be
Yeah.
still getting a sense of this, as you're building this out, but I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
Broadly speaking, the people that perform really well on the teams are the ones that like being the specialists and seeing things through to the finish line
Yeah.
in platform execution and delivery. When
Mm.
it comes to the account management team, the qualities that I'm looking for is, can you develop confidence and strong rapport with a client? Can you step back and look at the business and how marketing is playing into that, and actually help them, almost kind of like help coach them through sometimes even understanding their business a little bit better than they do?
Exactly.
Of, yeah, like
Right.
here's the things that people are getting stuck just like you.
Right.
And so like we've got to step back, and if you've got an
Yeah.
average order value, if you're e-commerce at this level and you're spending this much to acquire a new customer, like I'm sorry, like your just business model isn't going to work.
Right.
Or hey, this is great, we can put gas on the fire. But those are the qualities I look for: strong rapport,
Mm.
relationship building qualities, and just that ability to be strategic in kind of thinking on the business instead of getting super
Yeah.
involved in like
Right.
specific channels.
Which, from my perspective, is an argument for doing exactly what you guys are doing, which is building the playbooks for the verticals. Because
Yes.
over time, your account managers will be able to anticipate a lot more, because when you focus on a single vertical market, there's a lot of patterns that happen, and some clients are going to be
Yes.
ahead of others, right? And so that's a wonderful benefit that your clients, I'm sure, get and will continue to get, which is that you're solving problems for them that they don't even realize that they have yet. I want to move into the importance of knowing your why. It's a topic that I know that you care a lot about and that you write a lot about in your LinkedIn and the different programs that you run. What is the importance of knowing your why?
You know, it's almost self-evident. I think here's how I like to think about it.
Mhm.
I like to think about vision, strategy, and execution. I think this applies at the personal level. I think this applies at the relationship level. I think this applies at the business level as well. And if you don't have a strong why and you find yourself just doing the thing, that could be nutrition, that could be exercise, that could be the business, that could be the relationship, that could be whatever. But when you're doing the activity without a why behind it, it never lasts. And frankly, it kind of feels painful the whole time you're doing it. So the first thing that I would say is like when you don't have a why, you'll feel like you're suffering a lot in your life, frankly,
Yeah.
because it won't make sense why you're doing the things that you're doing, and the things that you're doing aren't getting you where you want to go, but you don't even know where you're trying to go.
Right.
And then I think if you go up a level and people try to like develop these strategies around, okay, well, before I jump into the execution and all of those things, like let me come up with an awesome strategy.
Yeah.
And that people totally get stuck there as well, personally, relationships, and business, because yeah, that will improve the quality of execution, but strategy still does. Strategy is what happens before the execution. But
Correct.
if there's no vision or why in front of the strategy, you find yourself right back in the same situation, which is always
Yeah.
coming up with a new strategy that isn't really
Mm.
isn't really solving anything. And so when I come back to like, well, what is your why then? Well, from a business standpoint, I think it's as simple as, why do you do what you do beyond making money? For most people, that gets them pretty close. Why do
Yeah.
you do what you do beyond making money? And and if you don't have a good answer to that, you probably don't have much of a why for your business. And there
Yeah.
is no amount of success,
Mm.
revenue, profitability, sellability of your business that will ever compensate for the way that you're feeling on the inside, because you don't have a why beyond making money. I think the same thing exists at the relationship level. Why does our relationship exist? What is it that we want to create together? How do we lean into each other's strengths and weaknesses? What are our shared values? Right? Like, what are the areas of life we want to explore together or more independently? If you don't have answers to those questions, you're going to be suffering in your relationship as well. Um, Speaking from experience. Um, and then at the individual level, the same thing holds true. If there is no reason for being, if there is no purpose behind what we're doing, it's
Mm.
like it's like feeling hollow, like feeling like a zombie. There's just not a lot of life energy that comes into
Mm.
that. And there's a few ways that when it comes to someone's why, I like to use the word authenticity as well.
Yeah.
Everyone has a unique iris. Everyone has a unique thumbprint. Everyone is unique.
Mm.
And it is individual uniqueness expressed that is what makes life meaningful and beautiful. Like,
Mm.
just imagine a life without uniqueness. Like that sunset that takes your breath away, that alpine mountain, that desert scape, the all of the things that are so unique, and they're beautiful because they're unique. Humans are no different. And there's kind of like, well, what is that? What is it that makes me unique? And there's so many ways to explore that. But one of the things that I like to explore with entrepreneurs and marketers is understanding one's strengths and weaknesses, because both are a gift to the world. If I didn't have weaknesses, I wouldn't have needed your services,
Mm.
right? If I didn't have strengths, I couldn't serve your weaknesses. Actually, both of them are a gift to each other. Same
Yeah.
in a relationship. Getting clear on the passions and values that motivate us and drive us, that we learn from our more painful experiences or from our most beautiful experiences that taught us what gives us life energy or what takes it away. The third area is what I think is really entrepreneurship in a nutshell, which is through the lens of your strengths and weaknesses, passions and values, you see something in the world that no one else sees. And therefore, you know how to serve that need in a way that no one else knows how to serve that need. And that's what I call, like, what does the world need, or how do I serve the world? And then the last one is, how do I make money? I know
Mm.
so many entrepreneurs that just, and again, one of those, there are times where I have felt so unworthy of the success that I've had, felt bad about, hey, when the business does well, like, is this even okay? Like, is this okay for me to be making money and being successful with the business and getting the things that I have? So anyway, it's just interesting. But when you take those four circles, strengths and weaknesses, passions and values, how you serve the world and how you make money, and you get clear on what would feel great in each of those areas, what would feel more authentic and unique to you, it's the intersection of those four areas that kind of points you to your own sweet spot, your own authenticity, or your purpose, or your why.
Mm.
Um, and then you bring that and what's kind of fun is it's like you get to explore that your whole life. It's not a static target.
Sure.
You get to experience life as it's moving and evolving. And then you bring that version of you to everything that you're doing, just when you're by yourself, when you're in your relationships, when you're at work, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I know I'm not good in these areas. That's why I hire people that compensate for that. Or I
Yeah.
know I'm really weak here, and that's why me and my spouse work together so well, because we get to lean into that for each other. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, instead of trying to be like, and this is where entrepreneurs like just totally die, is they try to be good at it all.
Right.
And they try to do it the way everyone else thinks that they think everyone else expects them to.
Mm.
And when you try to be Superman and you try to keep everybody happy, and then you wonder why life just feels sucky.
And knowing your strengths and weaknesses, your passions and your values, how you serve the world, and being an entrepreneur, how you make money. How does that relate to your vision? Is it once you've established these four circles, then that feeds your vision, or what is the relationship between these two?
When you get clear on a why, And let's just talk about this from the business standpoint. When you think, okay, well, what is my business why? Right? Like it is, I help people remember and live in alignment with who they are. That's what motivates me beyond anything else.
Yeah.
I see and activate the greatness in others. And when I see someone like all of a sudden that spark of self-belief, they get after it and they start doing it in a way that only they could do it. Because I'm an activator. You can even just tell by like my energy. That's my why. And that applies both at a personal level, relationship, and at a business level. What's fun about that is that's what begins the process of creating a vision for your business as well. And so when I just step back and say, "Go, some distant out there, if I could live in a world where that's what I was doing all day, every day, what would that look like?" That looks like a world where everyone has the courage to be authentic. That's the vision. Like that's that big dream, right? And like I want to be a part of that. And I say, okay, well, if that's my why and that's my vision, well, how can I just stick some sort of target to that whether I hit it or not, it's the thing that gets me out of bed to like work towards, because the idea is tied to the why, it is tied to the vision. And so for me, that target was within the next 10 years, I'd love to document 788,000 instances of people having the courage to live more authentically. And I got to that number because it's the world population divided by 10,000, roughly. And that number exists because every individual, even an introverted person, throughout the course of a lifetime, the ripple effect will influence about 10,000 people or more. And so I said, well, that's how I can lean into that vision and help create a world where everyone has the courage to be more authentic. And now I've got a why with a vision and a target. I'm like, hell yeah, let's go.
Which allows you to create a strategy to hit the target that's in alignment with the vision and the why. And then the execution is just day to day, right?
So then we say, okay, well, we want to do that in the next 10 years. Well, how are we going to do that? Right. Well, our primary audience is marketers and entrepreneurs. Okay. And there's a reason why, because I'm a marketer and I'm an entrepreneur. And so it's just an audience that I speak to well. And marketers are a microphone for the people and brands that they believe in. And when you have authentic marketers doing great work for the brands they actually believe in, watch out.
Yeah.
Watch out. Yeah. When you have entrepreneurs building businesses with a strong why and a vision, watch out. You can't stop them. There is a discretionary part that comes out that is just incredible. And so, yeah, I think that Disruptive University, this authenticity wins concept, the book will be out later this year. Awesome. Like that's what really drives me. And for the foreseeable future, I see those that have a huge impact are marketers and entrepreneurs. And so that's who I focus on with Disruptive University. Because when they can say, this is what it means to be authentic, and this is how I have vision in my personal life, in my relationships, and with my business or the businesses I'm doing marketing for, like that is the thing that I want to be a part of. And I can't do it for anyone, but I can provide the lessons and principles that, frankly, Corey, took me the 12 years, a couple $1 million of trying to fix myself, struggling in my marriage, feeling trapped by my business, having a lot of outward success, but feeling inwardly worse and worse. And I love all of it. Yeah. I love all of that I went through, because it helped me it gave me contrast and the ability to understand what is authentic for me. What is my why? How does that disseminate into my business and in my life as well? And so, yeah, that's what I focus on these days.
And so help me understand. So the people who enroll in Disruptive University, are they required to be Disruptive Advertising clients, or is this a separate product? How do the two businesses relate to each other? And frankly, I'm also super curious about, how does this come to life within your agency?
Yeah. So one of our unique differentiators at Disruptive Advertising is everyone is Disruptive University certified and graduated from the course. So when you work with someone from Disruptive, you know that they have a strong understanding of what it means to be authentic. And that if they're working with you, it's because they want to work with you. Because one of our brand pillars is we only work with people and brands that we believe in. Because otherwise, I'm not living true to my vision. Now, are we perfect with that? There's always a little bit of a work in progress on those things. But it's one of our strong differentiators as an agency that allows me to attract and retain top talent, because they know we're not going to just sign up anyone that we can get to sign up for the agency. And our clients, when we're like, we're working with you because we want to, not just because you are willing to pay us.
Right.
And we are willing to walk away from this relationship as well. Like this is, and most agencies aren't willing to do that. So that's how it applies at the agency level.
Yeah.
To answer your question is, the method that I'm using is everything we teach in Disruptive University, personally and professionally as an entrepreneur and a marketer, we're going to give it all away for free. Period. That is our content strategy. We want to contribute to a world where everyone has the courage to be more authentic, especially our marketers and our entrepreneurs. Okay.
Yeah.
Disruptive University is the done with you model. If you want to structure, you want to go through with a cohort of like-minded marketers or entrepreneurs. Of course, I tend to attract more agency owners to it, although it's not exclusively agency owners.
Yep.
Hey, we actually, when you go through the program and answer, it's like the book that you read that's a great idea, but then you don't do anything with it after. The course is you actually have to go through and do the work. And on the back end, it builds a personal authenticity dashboard for you with your why and all of the things that we've talked about today. It builds that out for you in a relationship, and it builds it out for you with your business as well. And so we've been building some really cool tech on the back end so that you can just show up and do the work. And now you've got a strong why personal authenticity dashboard. And again, in your relationship, and again, for your business.
Yeah.
And those are some of the things that people get in going through the program, but we'll teach and share all that for free. The program's got some cool tech and community that I think make it special.
Hey, it's Corey. After scaling an agency from 20 million to 150 million, I've discovered something profound. The most successful agencies aren't trying to serve everyone. They dominate one specific vertical market. I've created the Deep Specialization Accelerator, a 90-day group program that transforms generalist agencies into sought-after vertical market specialists. Using the proven system from my best-selling book, Anyone, Not Everyone, we will help you to, number one, choose the perfect vertical market for you if you don't already have one. Number two, build trust and authority in the vertical. Number three, create a predictable revenue growth plan so you can dominate the market with certainty. Join other ambitious agency founders ready to escape the generalist trap. We start in early March and only 12 spots are available to ensure you have an amazing experience. Visit CoreyQuinn.com/DSA. That's CoreyQuinn.com/DSA to learn more about the next cohort that's starting soon. Now back to the show. People who are attracted to this program, what is happening in their life, or what's the context by which they say to themselves, yeah, this is something that I'm going to commit to really leaning into and, pursuing because I'm currently not, clear on my why. Like what's happening in people's lives that this really has a good impact in?
Yeah. I would say the people that it works for best are the ones that have checked all the boxes that they thought they were supposed to check, and they're not as happy as they thought they'd be. They told themselves, I'll be happy when, fill in the blank, and they even did it, and they're still not feeling happy. And they're just saying, what the hell?
Right.
I did what I was told. It doesn't feel the way I thought it would. What gives?
Right.
And to those people, I would say, I have so much love and respect because that is such a crucial part of life. Check the boxes, go on the adventure, do it the way you thought you were supposed to, because that's how you learn who you really are and what really matters to you.
Right.
But crossing that bridge of letting go of who you thought you were supposed to be and stepping more into who you now know is calling to you for this next stage of your life, relationship, and business.
Right.
It's a little scary to let go of all those things because we hide behind our businesses. That's one of
Yeah.
the reasons why a lot of entrepreneurs are unhappy, because they hide behind the one thing that's going really well for them, even though they're feeling inauthentic in so many other areas of their life. And rather than addressing them head on, which is what my program does, which is why it's not for the faint of heart. Um,
I'm
um,
liking it more and more the more you talk. I'm like, yes, it sounds awesome. Yeah.
yeah, but that's the bridge. And I would
Mm.
say it's this used to be the midlife crisis that was happening for people later in life. I
Yeah.
just see it happening as early as 20s, 30s. Definitely like that 35 to 45 is where it seems to be
Yeah.
happening the most right now.
And so what's a good first step? Maybe someone who's listening to our conversation is maybe internally nodding, maybe physically nodding to and say, yeah, what Jake is saying is resonating a lot. Like what's a great first step for them to take to learn more about the program?
I would say the best first step is not to do anything. I actually think it's just pause, take a few
Mm,
breaths,
mm,
and love where you are and
mm,
everything that got you to where you are. Because you'll know in that moment where you just pause and just love and reflect on what got you to where you are, you know what you're supposed to do next. Everyone always knows. And no one needs Disruptive University to know what's next and to take action on that.
mm,
So that's the first thing I would say. I think
mm.
Disruptive University is just for people that don't want to go it alone,
Yeah.
that are looking for community, looking for some structure, looking for a little bit of accountability. And someone like Jake that's a good galvanizer to give him a little kick in the tush once in a while to just, okay, you keep saying you're going to do something about it, let's do
Yeah.
something about it, you know?
Yeah.
That's who I would say is would be a good fit. And the best way is just connect with me on LinkedIn. I've got so many A's in my name, I'm easy to find. Jake Baadsgaard, and let's just connect
Yeah.
there. That's where I'm the
Yeah.
most active and very responsive.
You mentioned you have a book coming out. Tell us about the book.
Okay, this is like you've written a book, so you know. You just went through this, and I've been working on it for a year. I'm hoping to have it released May or June of this year. Authenticity Wins. It is literally the course in a book, but very how I experienced and learned the principles. What does it mean to be authentic? Using the principles of awareness, honesty, and responsibility. That's how every lesson is taught. Because until you're aware of something, there's nothing to do about it. Once you're aware of something, you have to be honest with yourself about what it means, and then ultimately take responsibility. Um, we explore the frameworks and the things that we talked about in there, and I am just not afraid to be messy in it. Of like, we all want to. It's kind of like that the old adage of your mess is your message. I don't see a lot of entrepreneurs that are willing to be super vulnerable. They kind of want to wait until they've had the success to talk about the hard things that they went through. And I'm still in the middle of plenty of hard things myself. And in the book, I tried to just take a pretty vulnerable approach of here's where I was at, here's the stories I was telling myself, here's where I got confronted with the lies that I was telling myself. Finally took some responsibility and moved that forward. But it's called Authenticity Wins. Um, I really do believe that in the end, authenticity does win. And even if you find yourself feeling inauthentic today, you wouldn't even know what it means to be authentic if you hadn't been inauthentic for a while. Everything points you back to who you are and what you're here to uniquely do and express that no one else can.
And I'm just curious now, now that I'm a published, quote unquote, published author, are you going to be working with a publisher or are you self-publishing?
I am working with a publishing group. They're an independent, but they're pretty flexible on how we approach that. So we'll see. We've got a PR group. We're getting a little podcast series put together, and we'll see. But right now, I've got to get the manuscript to the finish line. I am, and I'm sure you'll relate to some degree, but I had to write the first manuscript to realize it wasn't what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
And
That's the
then,
process,
yeah,
right? It's like you get it out, and as a result of writing it, you learn exactly what you actually do want to say.
correct. So I'm in the process of creating the second manuscript right now that I'm
Great.
supposed to have done in the next month, and we're getting close.
The best thing I did, just to share real quickly,
Please.
was to hire a fantastic editor. And there's a lot of them out there, but this editor, she happens to be someone who's edited a lot of books that I respect in the sort of the B2B nonfiction space. I was lucky enough to get her at a time where she was not completely sold out, so I got her. And what she was able to do was to take my very, I would say, decent at best manuscript that I had rewritten, and she helped me to make it into something I'm really proud of. So that is the power of a great editor. And so if you haven't already, certainly consider adding that to your process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great call out.
Yeah, it is something that, writing a book that you're proud of. You see a lot of people today leveraging the power of AI and these shortcuts and ghost writers. And there's nothing inherently wrong with these things, but I think for myself, I wanted to go through the process of writing it, figuring out how to articulate these ideas, and hiring great people around me to help me. And the fact that I have a book that I'm proud of is something that has turned into something, an asset, I should say, a marketing asset that I love giving out, and that I get wonderful feedback coming back all the time. In fact, most people who hire me, usually as part of the sales process, they show me the book that they read, my book. They said, I read your book, listened to your podcast, and I'm ready to work with you, right? It's one of those things. So it's very, very powerful. And it sounds like you're on that path as well.
Yeah.
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 Very cool. Well, I just have two final questions for you as we wrap up here. We're short on time. The first one would be, looking back at your career specifically as, an agency owner and now transitioning into a real big focus with Disruptive University. What would be your parting advice, particularly for agency owners, because you have that background and that experience, who are struggling with growing their business? What would be your advice on what they should do?
Well, I think there's two answers I would give to that. The first one is what we already talked about, which is, why do you even want to grow it?
That's right.
Right? Get clear on your why, because there is no amount of growth that will ever satisfy if you do not have a strong why behind everything that you do. Because everything you do in this world will eventually come to an end. All of it. It's guaranteed to change. The things we cared about so much a year or two ago are all gone and different now. And so if there's not a why that sits behind or underneath all of that, then you're just going to always feel like things are falling apart, because in some ways they are. And then once you've got a strong why, first off, that will give you the energy, that discretionary energy to want to grow for a reason that's beyond making money. It's okay to make money along the way as well. Let's be clear about that. But and when you've got that discretionary part of you that knows why you're doing this, even if you weren't making money, I promise you will know what it is that you need to do to grow. And you can look for everyone else to tell you what the answer is, but all you're really doing is just procrastinating doing what you already know you should do.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I can apply that to myself, where it was many years, even at Scorpion, where I knew what I wanted to do, but I was procrastinating doing what I wanted to do because I was checking boxes and doing things that other people told me were important. So it's good advice. You've already spoken to this, but I want to ask again as we wrap up. My last question to you is, what's your motivation?
Yeah. My motivation is, I really do envision a world where everyone has the courage to be authentic. And Corey, I would describe this the way that I did earlier, which is, you have something about you that is truly and completely unique from anything else. And when I see people see and start to love and appreciate their uniqueness rather than try to hide it, that is like, it's beautiful. And the reason why I connect with it so much is because I hid behind trying to do the things the way I thought others expected me to, rather than leaning into that myself. And I think that's part of the process. I don't think that means you're doing it wrong. And there comes a time where enough is enough and it's time to step in.
Let's go.
It's time. And
Yeah.
because if not you, then who? And if not now, when?
Yeah.
And so that's where I would just say, that's what I'm very passionate about. That's what my why is about. I am grateful. I've been able to apply that to my agency, to my university, and our disruptive caring initiative as well, where there's a strong why that I personally connect with that disseminates through my organizations. It just gives me a lot of purpose, and it allows me to play the long game, not always trying to play the short game. And that is why I have a competitive advantage. And that is why authenticity will win in the end, because I'm playing the long game and we're doing it in a way that no one else will. Yeah.
Well, for any listeners who feel like it is their time, I highly encourage you to reach out to Jake. He's on LinkedIn. Find him there, reach out to him, engage, find out what he's up to. And I think that is just a real wonderful offer that you're putting out. Clearly, it is coming from the heart. It's coming through your experience. And I think it's a tremendous value to the world. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for joining the podcast, Jake.
Thanks, Corey.
Thanks for tuning in to the Deep Specialization Podcast. If you haven't checked out my best-selling book, Anyone, Not Everyone, you can download the audiobook for free right now by going to anyoneNotEveryone.com. That's anyoneNotEveryone.com. And finally, a special thank you to our sponsor, E2M. We'll see you in the next episode.